Welcome to the world of science fiction, where extraordinary tales come to life. Enjoy the journey. The murky green liquid in Leon's glass bubbled with suspicious intensity. He watched the chemical reaction with mild interest, a cynical smirk playing on his unshaven face as he took another swig of what passed for beer at the Green Tentacle. The acidic taste burned his throat, but at least it was cheap. "Just another Tuesday," he muttered, settling deeper into his chair. Across the bar, a trio of scaly reptiloids hissed threats at a pair of two-headed gastropods. The tension had been building for the past hour, and Leon had positioned himself at the perfect distance, close enough to enjoy the show, far enough to avoid flying debris. The first punch landed with a wet smack. One of the gastropod's heads let out a high-pitched shriek, while its companion head continued drinking, unfazed. "Amateurs," Leon chuckled, catching the eye of Zix, the bar's cybernetic bartender. The chrome-plated humanoid with a distinctive bird-like beak nodded in silent agreement as he polished a glass with his metallic fingers. "Heard the news, Penaphaser?" Zix asked, his mechanical voice cutting through the growing commotion. "It's Penaphaser," Leon corrected, emphasizing the last syllable. "And no, I make it a point to avoid anything newsworthy." Zix's optical sensors flickered, the equivalent of an eye roll. "They're executing the last Rilke today, over on Omega-7. "The what now?" Leon asked, feigning interest while tracking the trajectory of a chair as it sailed across the room. "Rilke, ancient species, practically extinct now. Got some crazy tech buried in their DNA or something." Zix leaned in closer, his metallic beak inches from Leon's face. "Word is, the Galactic Security Corporation wants them all gone. Too dangerous." Leon shrugged, adjusting his worn leather jacket. "Sad, but what's that got to do with me?" The bartender straightened up. "Nothing, I guess. Just thought it was interesting." "Interesting gets people killed," Leon replied, draining his glass. "I prefer boring. Boring keeps me alive and debt-free." He slapped a few credit chips on the counter. "Well, alive anyway." His communicator buzzed against his wrist. Leon swiped the holographic interface into view, squinting at the job details. "Speaking of Omega-7, he murmured. The cargo delivery request offered double the standard rate. Suspicious, but not enough to decline. 5 hours there, 5 back, and enough credits to keep his ship, the inappropriately named Chicken Soup, from being repossessed for another month. Clean job, no complications. 5 hours there, 5 back, and I'm back in my hammock with a bottle of rum," he reassured himself, accepting the contract with a quick gesture. As Leon stood to leave, a deafening crash signaled the reptiloid gastropod situation had escalated to property damage. He ducked just in time to avoid a flying tentacle, detached from whom he couldn't tell and didn't care to find out. "See ya, Zix. Keep the barstool warm." "It'll be here when you get back," the bartender replied. "It always is." The chicken soup groaned in protest as Leon guided it through Omega-7's dense atmosphere. The ship had never been pretty, even when new, and 15 years of patch jobs and questionable maintenance hadn't improved its aesthetics. But it flew most of the time, and that's all Leon really needed. "Come on, baby," he whispered, patting the control panel as several warning lights flashed. "Just a little further. We'll get you those new stabilizers soon." The ship responded with an alarming shudder but managed to land in one piece at the designated cargo port. Leon exhaled slowly, wiping sweat from his brow. Every landing was becoming a gamble lately. The spaceport bustled with the usual mix of species from across the galaxy. Omega-7 had positioned itself as a trade hub, though its real significance came from its strategic location and the Galactic Security Corporation's heavy presence. GSC officers in sleek black uniforms patrolled everywhere, their expressions universally grim. "A real vacation spot," Leon muttered, securing his cargo and preparing the delivery documents. The transaction went surprisingly smoothly. The client accepted the shipment without inspection, another red flag Leon chose to ignore, and transferred the credits immediately. With his pockets heavier and his conscience only slightly troubled, he headed toward the nearest food stall. A successful job deserved celebration, even if that just meant a slightly better quality of garbage passing as lunch. As he rounded a corner, Leon noticed an unusual concentration of people flowing in one direction. His instinct screamed to go the opposite way, but his stomach insisted the food district lay ahead. Grudgingly, he followed the crowd, maintaining a careful distance. The mass of bodies emptied into a large square dominated by a raised platform. GSC officers formed a perimeter, their weapons prominently displayed. Leon froze, suddenly remembering Zix's words. They're executing the last Rilke today. On the platform stood the most striking woman, if woman was even the right term, Leon had ever seen. Her skin was a deep, luminous purple that seemed to shimmer with an inner light. Silver hair cascaded down her back, contrasting dramatically with her skin. She wore what appeared to be a combination of battlesuit and elegant dress, clinging to a perfect figure that made Leon's mouth go dry despite the circumstances. But it was her eyes that truly captured him, bright emerald green with vertical pupils that gleamed like polished gold. Even from a distance, they radiated intelligence and defiance. Her hands were bound behind her back, but she stood tall, chin raised, surveying the crowd with regal contempt. A stone-faced judge in formal GSC attire stood beside her, reading from a holographic document. Ari Kassadit, last known survivor of the Rilke species, you have been found guilty of violating Galactic Code Section 47B, possession of forbidden technology and genetic modifications deemed hazardous to galactic security. Leon shifted uncomfortably. He should leave. Right now. This was exactly the sort of situation his personal philosophy warned against, but something kept him rooted to the spot, curiosity perhaps, or something more primal. The sentence is immediate termination, with genetic material to be preserved for scientific study. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Leon noticed several spectators nodding in agreement, while others looked distinctly uncomfortable. The galaxy's propaganda machine had clearly been effective. Most citizens believed the GSC acted only for the greater good. Leon bent down, ostensibly to tie his boot. It was a paranoid habit he'd developed years ago. Never stand still in a crowd for too long. As he knelt, his eyes met the Rilke woman's across the square. Time seemed to stop. Her emerald eyes widened slightly, and something passed between them, a connection that Leon couldn't explain and didn't want to acknowledge. Her lips parted, and though no sound crossed the distance, he could have sworn she mouthed a single word. "Help! You there!" Leon startled, nearly falling backward as a GSC officer materialized beside him. The man's face was partially hidden behind a tactical visor, but his scowl was unmistakable. "State your name and business," the officer demanded, hand resting on his sidearm. Every eye in the vicinity turned to Leon. The crowd parted around him like he'd suddenly contracted something contagious. Even the judge paused mid-sentence. Leon Pennefaser," he stammered, immediately kicking himself for giving his real name. "Just passing through, delivering cargo." "Do you know this prisoner?" The officer jerked his head toward the platform. Leon glanced back at the Rilke woman. Her face had transformed, desperation replacing defiance. Her eyes bored into his, silently pleading. The GSC executioner had moved closer to her, a high-tech injector in hand. A dozen thoughts raced through Leon's mind. Denial was the safest option. A simple no, and he could walk away. Back to his ship, back to his uncomplicated, if somewhat pathetic, existence. Instead, what came out was, "She's my mate." The words seemed to echo across the suddenly silent square. The executioner froze. The judge dropped his holographic tablet. Even the Rilke woman looked stunned, though Leon detected a flash of something else in her expression, calculation. "What did you say?" the officer demanded, his hand now fully gripping his weapon. Leon's throat went dry. What the hell had he just done? But there was no turning back now. He straightened his shoulders, trying to project confidence he absolutely did not feel. "She's my mate," he repeated, more firmly this time. My chosen partner." The judge recovered his composure first, hurrying down from the platform to confront Leon directly. You claim a mating bond with a Rilke? Do you understand the implications of such a claim? Of course I do, Leon lied. Absolutely. 100%. The judge stared at him through narrowed eyes. By galactic law, if a Rilke has formed a recognized pair bond with a member of an acknowledged species, execution is prohibited. Leon nodded solemnly, as if this was precisely the loophole he'd been counting on. However, the judge continued, such claims must be verified. If you're lying— I'm not, Leon interrupted, amazed at his own recklessness. We're very much bonded, deeply, profoundly, even. The Rilke woman's restraints were cautiously removed. She descended from the platform with fluid grace, her eyes never leaving Leon's face. As she approached, he noticed subtle patterns across her purple skin, like constellations mapped across her body. She stopped inches from him, close enough that he could smell her, an intoxicating scent reminiscent of exotic flowers and morning dew. A small smile played at the corners of her full lips. My savior, she purred, her voice musical and slightly accented. How fortunate you arrived when you did, mate. The way she emphasized the last word sent a shiver down Leon's spine, half terror, half something he refused to analyze. Happy to help, he muttered through clenched teeth. That's me, always helpful. The judge cleared his throat. If this claim is legitimate, you are now responsible for her actions under galactic law. Any further violations will result in penalties for both parties. Great, Leon said weakly, looking forward to it. And, the judge added, you are now obligated to complete the formal bonding ritual within 3 standard cycles. The what now? Leon choked. The Rilke woman slipped her arm through his, pressing her body against his side with casual intimacy. Her touch sent an electric current through him that made it difficult to concentrate. Don't worry, beloved, she whispered, her eyes glinting with mischief. I'll explain everything, in private. Leon stumbled through the corridors of Omega-7's administrative complex, towed along by his new mate, as if he weighed nothing. GSC officials who had sneered at him minutes earlier now stepped aside, their expressions a peculiar mix of fear and reverence. The Rilke woman's grip on his arm was both gentle and unyielding, like silk-wrapped steel. Will you slow down, he hissed as they turned another corner, and maybe explain what the hell is happening. Ari flashed him a dazzling smile that did alarming things to his internal organs. Patience, beloved. Walls have ears, especially GSC walls. A senior administrator intercepted them, bowing so low his forehead nearly touched his knees. Honored pair bond, he addressed them, eyes fixed somewhere around Leon's boots. The magistrate requests your presence in the grand chamber. Leon opened his mouth to decline, but Ari dug her fingers into his forearm. We would be delighted, she purred. This is a terrible idea, Leon muttered as they followed the administrator through imposing double doors. You'll be comfortable, Ari whispered, her breath hot against his ear. The grand chamber lived up to its name, a cavernous space dominated by a circular table surrounded by officials from various planetary systems. All conversation ceased as they entered. A distinguished woman with silver-streaked hair rose from the central seat. Captain Pennefaser, she greeted, pronouncing his name with unexpected reverence. And Lady Cassadet, we are surprised by this development. That makes 2 of us, Leon mumbled, earning another warning squeeze from Ari. Magistrate Carling, Ari acknowledged with a slight bow. The ways of destiny are often surprising. Carling studied them both, her expression calculating. Indeed, the last Rilke pair bonded to a human, quite unprecedented. Look, Leon interjected, there's clearly been some misunderstanding. My mate is modest, Ari interrupted smoothly. Humans often are about their accomplishments. The magistrate's eyebrows rose. Accomplishments? Surely you know who he is, Ari asked, sounding genuinely shocked. Leon shot her a panicked glance, but she merely smiled serenely. I confess, beyond his ship registration we have limited information, Carling admitted. Ari laughed, a musical sound that drew every eye in the room. Oh, how delightful! He's traveling incognito. She leaned in conspiratorially. Very wise, given the current political climate. The magistrate straightened, suddenly alert. Perhaps we should continue this conversation privately. 10 minutes later, Leon found himself in a luxurious office, watching in horrified fascination as Ari wove an increasingly elaborate fiction about his supposed importance. He caught fragments, something about Earth's special forces and classified missions, but mostly focused on calculating his chances of escaping through the window. Which is why, Ari was saying, we would greatly appreciate discretion and a suitable vessel for our journey. Carling nodded solemnly. Of course, it would be our honor to provide appropriate transportation for such a distinguished couple. Wait, Leon interrupted. What about my ship? Both women turned to him with identical expressions of pity. Beloved, Ari said gently, that charming collection of spare parts can hardly be called a ship anymore. The chicken soup has character, he protested. It has imminent catastrophic failure written all over it, Ari countered. She's right, Carling agreed. Our scans indicated at least 7 critical systems on the verge of collapse. It's a miracle you landed safely. Leon felt a peculiar pang at the thought of abandoning his decrepit vessel. But all my stuff will be transferred to your new ship, Carling assured him. The Stellar Whisper is one of our finest courier vessels, fast, discreet, and well-armed. Well-armed, Leon echoed. Carling and Ari exchanged meaningful glances. For protection, the magistrate said smoothly, these are uncertain times. The Stellar Whisper was everything the chicken soup wasn't, sleek, modern, and actually functioning. Its obsidian hull absorbed rather than reflected light, giving it a predatory appearance even at rest. The interior featured genuine artificial gravity, not the jury-rigged centrifugal system Leon had grown accustomed to. This is the captain's cabin, a deferential port official explained, ushering them into a spacious room dominated by an actual bed, not the suspended hammock Leon had slept in for years. It's perfect, Ari declared, immediately claiming the space by trailing her fingers over various surfaces. There are separate crew quarters down the corridor, the official added, glancing between them uncertainly. That won't be necessary, Ari said before Leon could respond. We're pair-bonded. The official bowed and retreated, leaving them alone for the first time since the execution square. Leon rounded on her the moment the door sealed. What the hell was that about? And what's this pair-bond nonsense you keep spouting? Ari perched on the edge of the bed, crossing her legs in a way that momentarily short-circuited Leon's thought process. I saved your life, and you saved mine, she said simply. A fair exchange. Except I didn't agree to any of this. You've been making wild claims about me, and now they've given us a military-grade ship because they think I'm some kind of special agent? Ari shrugged, the movement causing the light to ripple across her purple skin. Would you prefer I told them the truth? That you're just a down-on-his-luck cargo hauler who blurted out the first thing that came to mind? Yes, no, I don't know. Leon ran his hands through his hair in frustration. I just want to understand what I've gotten myself into. Ari's playful demeanor softened. You claimed me as your mate. By the ancient laws still recognized throughout the galaxy, that means we're bound together until the claim is formally dissolved or consummated. Consummated? Leon's voice cracked embarrassingly. The mischievous glint returned to her emerald eyes. Don't worry, we have options. What options? Well, she said, stretching like a contented feline, we could complete the ritual and make the bond permanent, or we could seek formal dissolution once we're safely away from GSC jurisdiction. And how exactly do we dissolve it? A simple process. We just need to appear before a galactic adjudicator and declare our intentions. Of course, there's a 3-month waiting period during which we must continue the appearance of being bonded. 3 months? Leon sputtered. A mere blink in cosmic terms, Ari said with a wave of her hand. Besides, it's not as if you had pressing engagements elsewhere. He couldn't argue with that. His life had been a series of cargo runs interspersed with drinking at the Green Tentacle. Still, "This is a terrible idea," he repeated. Ari rose from the bed and glided toward him, moving with inhuman grace. "You'll be comfortable," she murmured, snaking her arms around his neck. Up close, the constellations on her skin seemed to shift and pulse with her heartbeat. Her scent, that intoxicating blend of exotic flowers and morning dew, filled his senses. "That's not the point," Leon managed, trying to maintain his train of thought as her body pressed against his. "I don't do complications. I especially don't do galactic politics and ancient alien rituals." "Too late," she whispered, her lips brushing his ear. "You're already neck-deep in both." Leon felt his resistance crumbling. His hands, seemingly of their own accord, found their way to her waist. "Just for clarity," he asked, his voice rougher than intended, "what exactly does this consummation entail?" Ari's smile was both predatory and inviting. "I could tell you." She trailed a finger down his chest. "Or I could show you." The kiss, when it came, was like nothing Leon had experienced before. An electric current seemed to pass between them, intensifying every sensation. Her lips were soft yet demanding, and the small sound she made in the back of her throat demolished the last of his objections. His hands explored the curve of her spine as the kiss deepened. The battlesuit she wore seemed to respond to his touch, loosening and shifting to allow greater access. "Convenient design," he murmured against her lips. Ari laughed softly. "Rilka technology. It responds to desire." As if to demonstrate, the material rippled and receded further, revealing more of her luminous purple skin. Leon's breath caught as the suit continued its strategic retreat, unveiling her perfect form inch by tantalizing inch. "This is a terrible idea," he whispered one last time, even as his body made its disagreement abundantly clear. "The best ones usually are," Ari replied, pulling him toward the bed. Leon woke to the unfamiliar sensation of actual comfort. For a moment he couldn't place his surroundings, the real mattress, the ambient lighting, the advanced environmental controls maintaining a perfect temperature. Then he felt movement beside him, and the events of the previous day came flooding back. The execution plaza, his impulsive declaration, the magistrate's office, the new ship, and Ari. He turned to find her watching him, her emerald eyes bright in the dim cabin. "Regrets already?" she asked, her tone light but with an undercurrent of genuine concern. Leon considered the question. He should have regrets. This was exactly the sort of complication he'd spent his life avoiding. And yet, "This was a mistake," he said finally. "A beautiful mistake, but still a mistake. I need to get back to my life." "What life?" Ari challenged gently. "Running cargo for criminals? Drinking until you forget you're capable of more?" "It was simple," Leon defended, "uncomplicated." "It was stagnation." She propped herself up on one elbow, the sheet falling away to reveal purple skin that glowed with a soft inner light. "You're hiding," Leon Pennefaser. "The question is, from what?" Before he could formulate a response, the ship's alert system blared. A holographic display materialized above the bed, showing an external view of space, and an enormous battlecruiser emerging from hyperspace directly in their path. "They found us!" Ari gasped, instantly alert. "Who found us?" Leon demanded, scrambling for his clothes. "GSC Special Forces. They must have realized their mistake." They raced to the bridge where the ship's systems were already tracking the approaching cruiser. Its size dwarfed the Stellar Whisper by at least a factor of 20. "We need to run," Leon declared, dropping into the pilot's seat. "They'll just follow us into hyperspace," Ari countered, taking the co-pilot position with practiced ease. "That's a Nomad-class pursuit vessel. It's designed to track hyperspace signatures." The comm system crackled to life. "Attention, rogue vessel. This is GSC Command. Power down and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in immediate termination." Leon's hands flew over the controls, assessing their options. "Can we outrun them sublight? Not a chance, Ari replied grimly. That cruiser has enough firepower to vaporize a small moon. As if to emphasize her point, the GSC ship fired a warning shot that rocked their vessel despite passing several hundred meters away. They're attacking, Ari cried. Disengage the hyperdrive, Leon ordered, executing a desperate evasive maneuver. We don't have one, Ari shouted back, frantically working her own console. This is a courier ship, not a long-range vessel. It uses local jump gates. Then do something, Leon yelled as another blast narrowly missed them. Ari slammed her palm onto a section of the console that Leon hadn't even recognized as a control. The panel illuminated with strange symbols that definitely weren't standard galactic notation. What are you? Leon began. The question died in his throat as a pulse of energy emanated from their ship. It expanded outward in a spherical wave, completely silent yet somehow visibly distorting space itself. When it reached the cruiser, the massive vessel simply disintegrated. Not an explosion, not a collapse, just an elegant transition from existence to nothingness. Leon stared in shock at the empty space where a battlecruiser had been moments before. How did that work? Ari turned to him with a mischievous smile. You're a natural leader, she said, winking. No, seriously, Leon insisted. What just happened? Before she could answer, the ship's communication system chimed, a different tone from the previous GSC hail. Incoming transmission from Galactic Central, the ship's AI announced. Priority Alpha. They exchanged bewildered glances as the main screen activated to reveal a stern-faced official in elaborate ceremonial garb. Captain Penaphaser, the official intoned. The High Council requests your immediate presence. Your destruction of the rogue GSC vessel has been noted and recorded. The galaxy owes you a debt of gratitude. What? Leon sputtered. Coordinates are being transmitted for your convenience. We await your arrival with great anticipation. The transmission ended as abruptly as it had begun. What? Just happened? Leon demanded, turning to Ari. She looked as surprised as he felt. I think you just became a hero. That's not possible. All I did was panic while you pressed some weird alien button. Ari shook her head slowly. That's not how they see it. The GSC has been operating beyond their authority for years. That cruiser was acting without council sanction. By destroying it, you've essentially declared yourself a champion of galactic law. But I didn't destroy it. You did. Details, Ari said with a wave of her hand. What matters is the narrative. And right now, the narrative is that the mysterious human who claimed the last Rilke as his mate just eliminated a corrupt GSC death squad. Leon collapsed back into the pilot's seat. This is insane. I need to explain that this was all a misunderstanding. And then what? Ari challenged. They execute me and probably you too for interfering? The GSC doesn't take kindly to having their authority questioned. She had a point. They were in too deep now to simply back out. So we go to this High Council and, what? Accept medals for something we didn't mean to do? Essentially, yes, Ari agreed. And then we use that newfound status to stay alive. The ship's sensors chimed again, this time indicating an incoming vessel. Not a battlecruiser this time, but a sleek diplomatic transport bearing Earth's insignia. Now what? Leon groaned. The comm system activated without prompting. A gruff, authoritative voice filled the bridge. Leon Reynolds Penaphaser, what in blazes have you gotten yourself into this time, boy? Leon froze, his face draining of color. No, he whispered. Not him. Not now. Ari looked at him questioningly. My grandfather, Leon explained weakly. Admiral Tobias Reynolds. The Tobias Reynolds? Ari gasped. The hero of the Andromeda conflict? The man who single-handedly negotiated the Orion Peace Treaty. The very same, Leon confirmed miserably, and he's brought my sister. On cue, a young female voice joined the transmission. Big brother, I sensed you were having fun without me, so I made Grandpa bring us to play too. Ari's expression cycled rapidly through confusion, shock, and something approaching fear. Leon, she said carefully, who exactly are you? Before he could answer, the ship shuddered as a docking procedure initiated, without their input or permission. Too late, Leon sighed. You're about to meet the family. The airlock hissed open with unnecessary drama. Leon winced at the sound, knowing full well his grandfather had probably ordered the ship's AI to maximize the effect. Admiral Tobias Reynolds had never simply entered a room when he could make an entrance. Permission to come aboard granted, boomed a voice that had commanded fleets and struck terror into the hearts of enemy combatants across 3 galactic quadrants. Not that I need it, considering this bucket technically belongs to Earth anyway. Admiral Reynolds stood framed in the airlock doorway, his massive frame nearly filling the opening. Despite being well into his 70s, the man looked like he could bench press a shuttlecraft. His iron-gray hair was cropped in the same military style he'd worn for 50 years, and his dress uniform gleamed with so many medals it was a wonder he could stand upright. Beside him, bouncing on her toes with barely contained energy, stood a teenage girl with wild red hair and a smile that somehow managed to be both adorable and terrifying. "Big brother," she squealed, launching herself across the distance between them with inhuman speed. Leon braced for impact, but it didn't help. His sister slammed into him with the force of a small meteor, sending them both sprawling across the deck. "Lily," he wheezed from beneath her surprisingly heavy frame. "Good to see you too." Lily Reynolds beamed down at him, her green eyes, the same shade as their grandmother's, sparkling with mischief. Despite being only 16, she carried herself with the confidence of someone who knew exactly how dangerous she was. "You disappeared," she accused, poking him hard in the chest. "No messages, no visits. Grandpa said you were being a stubborn ass again." "Language, little nightmare," the Admiral rumbled, stepping fully into the ship. His eyes fell on Ari, who stood frozen in disbelief at the scene unfolding before her. "And this must be the Rilke who's caused all the commotion." Ari straightened, clearly recognizing the gravity of the moment. "Admiral Reynolds," she acknowledged with a formal bow. "It's an honor to meet a living legend." The old man's weathered face cracked into what might generously be called a smile. "At least she's got manners," he grunted. "More than I can say for most of the galaxy these days." Lily finally released Leon from her death grip and bounded over to circle Ari like a curious predator. "She's pretty," she declared after a thorough inspection. "And her skin glows. Can you do that all the time or just when you want to?" "Lily," Leon warned, struggling to his feet. "What? It's a fair question. I bet it's useful for reading in the dark." Admiral Reynolds ignored his grandchildren's bickering, his attention fixed on the bridge monitors. "So, destroyed a GSC Nomad-class cruiser, did you? With this little courier ship?" He shook his head. "Now I know you're hiding something." "It wasn't exactly," Leon began. "It was spectacular," Ari interrupted smoothly. Leon executed a brilliant tactical maneuver that took them completely by surprise. The Admiral's bushy eyebrows rose. Did he now? He turned his penetrating gaze on his grandson. "Seems you've been holding out on us, boy." Leon shot Ari a panicked look, which she answered with a subtle wink. "I just did what anyone would do," he muttered. "Nonsense," his grandfather declared. "Most people would have been space dust. The GSC doesn't send Nomad-class ships for routine matters." He stroked his chin thoughtfully. "They must have realized what they'd lost when this one claimed you." Ari's eyes widened slightly. You know about Rilke technology? Know about it? The Admiral barked a laugh that rattled the bulkheads. Girl, I've fought alongside your people in the Rigelian conflict. Magnificent warriors, terrible card players. His expression sobered. A damn tragedy what happened to your civilization. You fought with the Rilke? Leon asked, genuinely surprised. You never mentioned that. There's a lot I never mentioned, boy. The Admiral settled his bulk into the captain's chair, which creaked in protest. Now, sit down, all of you. We need to talk strategy. Strategy for what? Leon asked warily. For keeping you and your mate alive, of course. The old man looked at him like he was being deliberately dense. Do you think the GSC will just let this go? You destroyed one of their most advanced warships and embarrassed them in front of the High Council. They'll be out for blood. I tried to tell him, Ari said with a helpless shrug. Always was stubborn, the Admiral agreed. Gets it from his grandmother. Lily, who'd been examining the ship's weapon systems with disturbing familiarity, spun around in her chair. Can we kill them all, Grandpa? Please? I've been practicing with the phase disruptors you got me for my birthday. Not necessary, little nightmare. At least not yet. The Admiral's eyes twinkled with an alarming mixture of affection and strategic calculation. Though I appreciate your enthusiasm, Leon cleared his throat. I think we're getting ahead of ourselves. This whole situation is a misunderstanding that spiraled out of control. I'm not some kind of hero or warrior. I'm just a cargo pilot who made a split-second decision. The room fell silent. 3 pairs of eyes stared at him with varying degrees of disbelief. Is he serious? Lily Stage whispered to her grandfather. The Admiral sighed deeply. Leon, this charade has gone on long enough. Your ordinary cargo pilot act might fool the rest of the galaxy, but it won't work on family. It's not an act, Leon insisted. I haven't been pretending anything. So you're saying you don't remember Proxima Centauri? His grandfather challenged. Leon flinched involuntarily. That was different. I was a kid. You were 12, the Admiral corrected, and you single-handedly eliminated an entire Centaurian death squad with nothing but that ancient katana your grandmother gave you. Ari's jaw dropped. The Proxima Centauri massacre? That was you? Not my finest moment, Leon muttered, suddenly finding the deck plating fascinating. Not your... The Admiral slammed his fist on the armrest hard enough to dent it. Boy, they still teach that maneuver at the academy. The Reynolds Gambit, they call it. I didn't ask them to name it after me. Of course not. You were too busy running away pretending to be normal. The old man's voice softened slightly. Your father was the same way before he found his purpose. An uncomfortable silence descended. The mention of Leon's father, a topic usually strictly avoided, hung heavy in the air. Lily, as usual, broke the tension. I want a necklace made from Centaurian teeth, she announced. Like the one you made, big brother. I never made a necklace from teeth, Leon objected. But you could, she insisted. Or maybe we could fly to that pirate colony in the Vega system and try to take them all out using only forks. Wouldn't that be fun? No, Lily, that wouldn't be fun, Leon said through gritted teeth. That would be insane. Same thing, she replied with a shrug. Ari had been watching this exchange with growing comprehension. You're not just any family, she said slowly. You're the Reynolds. Guilty as charged, the Admiral confirmed, though Leon here has been working overtime to distance himself from the name. The legendary Earth Dynasty, Ari continued, her eyes wide. The bloodline that produced the greatest warriors, strategists, and diplomats of the modern era. She turned to Leon, a new understanding in her gaze. Your grandfather ended the 1,000-Year War with a toothpick. It was a dental pick, actually, the Admiral corrected modestly, and the story's been somewhat exaggerated over time. Only somewhat, Leon muttered. The basics are accurate, his grandfather insisted. I was having dinner with the Eurulian ambassador when one of his bodyguards made eyes at your grandmother. Magnificent woman, your grandmother. Could cut a man down with just a look. He smiled nostalgically. Anyway, the Eurulian made a move toward her, and I happened to be cleaning my teeth at the time. So you killed him with your dental pick, Ares supplied, clearly awed. 3 precise strikes, the Admiral confirmed, demonstrating with jabbing motions. Through the tertiary nervous cluster, past the exoskeletal plate, and directly into the brainstem. He was dead before he hit the floor. He polished his metals absently. The Eurulians were so impressed by the efficiency that they signed the peace treaty on the spot, said any species with that level of improvisational skill was too dangerous to fight. Leon had heard the story at least 50 times, but Ari was hanging on every word. She looked at him with new eyes as if seeing him properly for the first time. "And you," she said softly, "the reluctant heir to this legacy." "I'm not reluctant," Leon objected. "I just wanted a different life." "A boring life, you mean," Lily interjected. "Flying garbage around the galaxy when you could be having actual adventures." Before Leon could respond, the ship's alert system blared. Multiple vessels were converging on their position, sleek, black ships bearing the unmistakable insignia of GSC Special Forces. "Well, well," the Admiral remarked, oddly pleased. "Looks like they sent the big guns this time." The largest of the approaching vessels opened a communication channel. A stern-faced GSC commander appeared on screen. "Attention, rogue vessel. This is Commander Krev of GSC Elite Forces. Surrender the Rilke female immediately and the rest of you may live." The Admiral chuckled. "Krev, you old bastard. Still following bad orders, I see." The commander's face paled visibly as he recognized Tobias Reynolds. "Admiral? We weren't informed you were aboard." "Clearly," the old man growled. "Now, would you kindly explain why you're threatening my grandson and his legally claimed mate?" Krev hesitated, his eyes darting nervously. "Sir, with all due respect, the Rilke is a danger to galactic security. Her genetic structure contains—" "I know exactly what it contains," the Admiral interrupted. "I fought beside her people when you were still soiling diapers, son." While this exchange continued, Leon noticed a smaller vessel approaching from their blind spot. The maneuver was textbook GSC, distract with the main force while a strike team infiltrated from behind. Without thinking, he slid into the tactical station and activated the ship's defensive grid. His fingers flew over the controls with practiced precision, belying years of supposed inactivity. "Leon?" Ari asked, noticing his sudden shift in demeanor. "Boarding party," he replied tersely. "Standard GSC infiltration protocol. They're not here to negotiate." The Admiral glanced over, a smile tugging at his mouth. "Finally decided to stop pretending, eh?" Leon ignored him, focusing on the approaching threat. "Lily, take the engine controls. I need a power surge to Sector 7 when I give the word." His sister saluted crisply, all traces of childish behavior vanishing as she assumed her post. "Ready when you are, Commander." "Don't call me that," Leon muttered, but his voice lacked conviction. The infiltration vessel attached to their hull with a dull thud. Cutting tools immediately began working on the outer plating. "They're coming through aft section," Leon announced. "Grandpa, can you keep the commander talking?" "With pleasure." The Admiral turned back to the screen, launching into an elaborate story about a previous encounter with Krev's superior officer that involved a Neptunian belly dancer and 3 kilos of contraband spice. Leon met Ari's eyes across the bridge. "Stay behind me," he instructed. "I can fight," she objected. "I know you can, but right now I need you safe." The tenderness in his voice surprised them both. Something passed between them, a moment of perfect understanding that transcended their chaotic circumstances. Besides, Leon added with a ghost of his old smirk, you'll want a good view for what happens next. The infiltration team breached the hull. 6 GSC commandos in full tactical gear poured onto the ship, weapons raised. Now, Lily, Leon ordered. His sister slammed her hand down on the controls. The localized power surge magnetized the deck plating in Sector 7, instantly immobilizing the commandos' metal-enhanced boots. Simultaneously, Leon activated a targeted pulse that disabled their weapons. Within seconds, all 6 highly trained GSC operatives were stuck in place, effectively harmless. That, Leon said calmly, was your only warning shot. He opened a direct channel to the GSC commander, interrupting his grandfather's increasingly implausible story. Commander Krev, Leon addressed him, his voice taking on an authority that Ari had never heard before. I am Leon Reynolds Penaphaser. You currently have 6 of your men trapped on my ship, and your entire fleet within range of weapons you cannot detect or defend against. Krev's face contorted with a mixture of rage and fear. Reynolds? You're one of them? I am, Leon confirmed, and I'm officially ending this pursuit. The Rilke is under Earth's protection now, under my protection. You can't just— I already have, Leon interrupted. Now, you have exactly 60 seconds to recall your men and withdraw your fleet. After that, I make no promises about your continued existence. The commander sputtered indignantly, but the threat of the Reynolds name, combined with the mysterious destruction of the Nomad-class cruiser earlier, clearly gave him pause. This isn't over, Krev warned. Actually, it is, the Admiral chimed in. Unless you'd prefer I contact the High Council directly, I'm sure they'd be interested to hear about unauthorized GSC operations against a protected species. Krev's resolve visibly crumbled. Withdraw, he ordered his fleet, and someone get those men off that ship. As the GSC fleet retreated, Leon released the trapped commandos, who scrambled back to their vessel with as much dignity as their situation allowed. Once they were alone again, Leon turned to find 3 pairs of eyes watching him with varying degrees of satisfaction. What? He demanded. That, his grandfather said proudly, was pure Reynolds. That was hot, Ari added with a suggestive smile. That was boring, Lily complained. You didn't even stab anyone. Leon sank into the captain's chair, suddenly exhausted. I didn't want to do that, he said quietly. I was happy being nobody. No, you weren't, Ari corrected gently. You were just afraid of being somebody. She moved to stand beside him, her fingers lightly brushing his shoulder. Leon, when I first saw you in that square, I thought you were just a random human my desperate mind had latched onto as an escape. But then I felt it, something dormant but powerful. The Reynolds curse, he muttered. The Reynolds gift, she countered. The ability to change the galaxy when you stop hiding from yourself. The Admiral nodded approvingly. Smart woman, your mate. You should keep her. That was the plan all along, Leon admitted, reaching up to take Ari's hand, though I might have gone about it the long way. Lily bounced excitedly in her seat. Does this mean you're coming home? You can teach me that thing you did on Proxima where you used someone's own spine to— Lily, 3 voices warned simultaneously. Fine, she pouted. But can we at least go somewhere and have a proper adventure? Like that time Grandpa negotiated with the arachnids by challenging their queen to an arm wrestling contest. That's actually not a bad idea, the Admiral mused. Not the arm wrestling part, but addressing this situation officially. He activated the ship's navigation system. Set course for Earth. If we're putting the Reynolds stamp on this interspecies union, we're doing it properly. Union? Leon choked. We're not— we haven't decided— Oh, haven't you? His grandfather's knowing look silenced his protests. Boy, I've watched you look at her the same way I looked at your grandmother. The way your father looked at your mother. It's the only thing that could have pulled you out of that shell you've been hiding in. Leon glanced at Ari, whose emerald eyes glittered with amusement and something deeper. Is that true? she asked softly. A month ago, Leon would have denied it or made a joke to deflect. But something had changed, or rather, something long buried had reawakened. Yes, he admitted simply. It's true. The ship's AI announced completion of their course plotting to Earth. Well then, the Admiral declared, rising from his seat with ceremonial gravity. Let's make this official. The Galactic Council won't dare move against a Rilke who's formally bonded into the Reynolds bloodline. And by official, Lily added excitedly, he means a super big wedding with dignitaries from all over the galaxy and probably some kind of ritual combat demonstration because that's how we do things. Actually, Leon interjected, finding his voice at last, if we're doing this, we're doing it my way. He looked at Ari. Our way. Ari's expression softened. And what way is that? Leon Reynolds Penaphaser. Leon stood, suddenly certain in a way he hadn't been in years. A new way. One that honors your heritage and mine, but looks forward instead of back. He turned to his grandfather. The GSC has operated unchecked for too long. Their mandate was to maintain peace, not dictate which species get to survive. The Admiral's eyes gleamed with pride. Spoken like a true Reynolds. No, Leon corrected firmly. Spoken like myself. I'm not just a Reynolds, just like Ari isn't just a Rilke. We're more than our bloodlines. He addressed the ship's AI. Set additional coordinates after Earth, the Galactic Council chambers. Planning to make a statement, are you? His grandfather asked, though it wasn't really a question. Planning to make a change, Leon replied. The GSC answers to someone now, us. Lily clapped her hands in delight. Does this mean we get to overthrow a corrupt institution? That's my favorite kind of family vacation. As the ship entered hyperspace, Leon pulled Ari close. I'm sorry about my family, he whispered. Don't be, she replied, tracing the constellation of freckles across his nose. They're exactly what I expected from the legends. And me? He asked. Am I what you expected? Ari's smile was like sunrise breaking across alien horizons, beautiful, mysterious, and full of promise. You, she said, are so much more. The journey to Earth passed in a blur of preparation and planning. Leon found himself falling back into familiar patterns, strategic thinking, contingency planning, the methodical approach to problem-solving that had once been as natural as breathing. What surprised him most wasn't how easily these skills returned, but how differently he applied them now. You're not the same person who ran away, his grandfather observed on the third day, finding Leon alone on the observation deck. Leon shrugged, watching stars streak by in hyperspace. Maybe I just needed something worth fighting for. The Admiral's weathered hand landed on his shoulder. Your grandmother would be proud. She always said you'd find your way back when it mattered. I'm not coming back, Leon clarified. Not to what I was. I'm becoming something new. His grandfather studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Even better. Earth's orbital security station flagged their approach with the highest clearance codes, ones reserved exclusively for returning Reynolds family members. The ship's comms lit up with dignitaries and officials scrambling to arrange suitable welcomes. This is ridiculous, Leon muttered as they prepared to dock. You'd think we were royalty. Aren't you? Ari teased, adjusting her formal attire, a redesigned version of her battlesuit that managed to be both elegant and intimidating. Earth's unofficial ruling family? We just have a knack for being in the right place at the wrong time, he replied. Or maybe it's the wrong place at the right time. Their arrival at Earth Central Station triggered a security protocol that cleared the entire docking bay of all personnel except a selected honor guard. As the airlock opened, Leon was surprised to find he'd unconsciously positioned himself in a defensive stance, with Ari slightly behind him. Old habits, he murmured when she raised an eyebrow. The formal reception was mercifully brief, thanks largely to the Admiral's impatience with ceremony. Within hours, they were ensconced in the Reynolds family compound, a sprawling estate that combined the aesthetics of an ancient Japanese temple with cutting-edge security technology. This is where you grew up, Ari asked, gazing up at the soaring architecture. Until I was 18, Leon confirmed. Then Left. Ran away, Lily corrected, bouncing into the room. She changed into traditional Reynolds formal wear, a deceptively simple black outfit that concealed dozens of weapons. After the Centauri incident, he just disappeared one night. Grandpa was so mad he broke 3 training drones with his bare hands. I left a note, Leon protested. Gone fishing. Don't wait up is not a note, his sister retorted. Their bickering was interrupted by an alert from the compound security system. GSC diplomatic vessel requesting landing clearance, announced the AI. The family exchanged glances. Well, the Admiral said, cracking his knuckles, this should be interesting. Commander Krev looked considerably less imposing standing in the Reynolds Great Hall than he had on the view screen of his warship. Flanked by 2 nervous aides, he attempted to maintain a facade of official dignity despite being obviously terrified. Director Valen sends his personal apologies for the misunderstanding, Krev began, addressing the Admiral directly and studiously, avoiding eye contact with Leon or Ari. The GSC wishes to extend an olive branch of peace. An olive branch? Leon repeated skeptically. After trying to execute the last Rilke and then sending a battle fleet after us? Krev's eye twitched. As I said, a misunderstanding. The director has authorized me to offer substantial reparations. He gestured to one of his aides who stepped forward with a secure datapad. 5 billion galactic credits, diplomatic immunity for both of you, and a formal recognition of your pair bond. And in exchange? The Admiral asked, though they all knew the answer. Discretion, Krev replied. This matter need not come before the Galactic Council. Lily, who had been circling the GSC delegation like a predator sizing up prey, suddenly appeared directly in front of Krev. The commander flinched visibly. Do you know who I am? She asked sweetly, tilting her head in a way that somehow appeared more threatening than any scowl. Miss Reynolds, Krev acknowledged stiffly, Earth's special envoy. Lily laughed, a sound like wind chimes that carried an undercurrent of menace. That's such a boring title. Without warning, her hand shot out, moving faster than the human eye could track. It stopped a millimeter from Krev's throat, her index finger extended like a blade. I could puncture your carotid artery before your heart beats again. Did you know that? Lily, Leon warned, though there was no real heat in his voice. This was an old routine. She ignored him, her finger still poised at Krev's throat. The commander had gone rigid, not daring to swallow. 3 strikes with this finger, she continued conversationally. That's all it would take to drop all 3 of you. 1, 2, 3. She mimed the strikes in the air, then giggled and spun away. But that would make a mess on Grandpa's floor, and the cleaning bots are still mad about last time. Ari watched this display with a mixture of horror and fascination. She leaned closer to Leon. Is she always like this? Actually, she's behaving herself today, he whispered back. Last diplomatic incident, she disarmed 6 Arcturian honor guards and rearranged their cybernetic components into a sculpture before anyone could stop her. And yet, Ari murmured, she looks at you like you're the dangerous one. Leon shrugged uncomfortably. Family myth. Pay it no mind. Krev had recovered enough composure to continue. As I was saying, Director Valan is prepared to— Your offer is declined, Leon interrupted, stepping forward. The casual slouch he'd cultivated for years was gone, replaced by a posture that radiated quiet authority. The GSC has operated beyond its mandate for too long. The Rilke genocide wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a calculated attempt to monopolize advanced technology. That's a serious accusation, Krev sputtered. It's a fact, the Admiral added. One the Galactic Council will find very interesting. Perhaps more interesting, Leon continued, is what we found in the ship's database after we neutralized your cruiser. Records of other containment operations against species deemed potentially destabilizing. Care to explain that? Krev's face drained of color. Those records are classified. Not anymore. Leon gestured to the door. Your director has a choice. Resign immediately and cooperate with a full investigation, or face us before the council tomorrow. This is outrageous, Krev protested weakly. You can't just— His objection was cut short as Lily appeared beside him again, this time holding something that made his eyes widen in terror. "Is this your spleen?" she asked innocently, examining what appeared to be a small holographic replica of an internal organ. "I've been studying xenobiology. Fascinating how many species can survive without certain non-essential organs." She looked up at him with a bright smile. "Want to participate in an experiment?" "Lily," Leon sighed, "stop threatening the nice GSC man with experimental surgery." "You never let me have any fun," she pouted, but the hologram disappeared. Krev's composure shattered entirely. "We'll convey your terms to the director," he managed, backing toward the door. "Good day." As the GSC delegation practically fled the compound, Aerie stared at Lily with new understanding. "You're quite terrifying," she observed. Lily beamed, taking it as a compliment. "Me? I'm nothing special." She hopped onto a nearby table, swinging her legs. "You should see Leon when he actually tries." "I don't try to be terrifying," Leon objected. "That's what makes it worse," Lily explained to Ari in a stage whisper. "He doesn't even have to try." She leaned closer. "You know what they called him after Proxima Centauri? The Silent Death. Not because he didn't make noise, but because his victims never had time to scream." "That's enough, Lily," the Admiral intervened, noticing Leon's discomfort. But Lily was on a roll. "I'll let you in on a secret," she continued, jumping down to whisper directly in Aerie's ear. "If my brother ever decides to really unleash what he's capable of, even I'd be scared to watch." Ari glanced at Leon, seeing the conflict in his eyes, the tension between the person he'd tried to be and the person he was born to be. "I don't doubt it," she replied softly. "But that's not why I love him." The word hung in the air between them. Leon's eyes widened, and even Lily fell momentarily silent. "Well," the Admiral declared, clearing his throat, "I believe we have a council meeting to prepare for. Lily, come help me with the security protocols." "But Grandpa, it was just getting interesting," she protested. The old man fixed her with a stern look. "Now, little nightmare." With a dramatic sigh, Lily followed him from the room, but not before giving Aerie a conspiratorial wink. The Galactic Council chambers buzzed with tension and anticipation. News of the Reynolds family's formal appearance had spread like wildfire, bringing representatives from every major system scrambling for seats. The last time a Reynolds had addressed the full council had been 15 years ago, when the Admiral negotiated the Orion Peace Treaty. Leon stood at the entrance to the speaking floor, adjusting his formal attire, not the traditional Reynolds black, but a deep blue that matched the night skies of Aerie's homeworld. "Nervous?" Ari asked, taking his hand. "Terrified," he admitted. "Public speaking was never my thing." "You're not speaking to the public," she reminded him. "You're changing the galaxy." He smiled at that. "When you put it that way, it sounds so simple." "It is simple." She squeezed his hand. "Just be the man I know you are. Not the legend, not the runaway, just Leon." The council arbiter announced their names, and together they walked onto the speaking floor. A hush fell over the assembled dignitaries as Leon took his position at the central podium. "Representatives of the Galactic Council," he began, his voice stronger than he expected. "I stand before you today not as a Reynolds, though that is part of who I am, not as Earth's champion, though I am proud of my heritage. I stand before you as someone who has seen firsthand the consequences of unchecked power." The words flowed more easily than he'd anticipated. The evidence against the GSC presented methodically, the testimony of Ari's experiences weaving through the narrative like a thread of light. When he proposed the formation of a new regulatory body, one with representatives from all species, including those previously marginalized, the chamber erupted in debate that lasted for hours. Through it all, Ari remained at his side, her quiet strength bolstering his own. When the final vote was called, the outcome was decisive. The GSC would be disbanded, its leadership investigated, and a new era of galactic governance would begin. 6 months later, Leon stood on the terrace of their new home, a beautiful structure built on the cliffs overlooking Earth's Pacific Ocean, but incorporating architectural elements from Ari's lost homeworld. "Thinking deep thoughts?" Ari asked, joining him at the railing. The evening breeze ruffled her silver hair, now adorned with the ceremonial beads of their formal bonding ritual. "Wondering how I got here," he admitted. "A year ago, I was drinking cheap beer in a dingy bar, trying my hardest to be no one. And now? Now I'm helping rebuild galactic governance, married to the most beautiful woman in the universe, and somehow managed to not strangle my sister in the process. It feels terrifying," she suggested. "Right," he corrected, pulling her close. "It feels right." Behind them, the door to the terrace slid open, and Lily bounded out, followed by the Admiral at a more sedate pace. "Are you two being romantic again?" she demanded. "Because the Arcturian delegation just arrived, and one of them challenged me to a duel, and Grandpa says I can't accept unless you're there to supervise." "I said no dueling at all," the Admiral corrected. "Diplomatic immunity only covers so much." Lily rolled her eyes. "It was going to be a friendly duel, just a little maiming, nothing permanent." "No duels," Leon said firmly, though he couldn't help smiling. "Fine," she huffed, "but you owe me a proper sparring match later. I've been working on that move you showed me." "The one where—" "Yes, that one." She brightened immediately. "I can do it with my eyes closed now." To demonstrate, she executed a blindingly fast series of movements that ended with her balancing on one finger atop the terrace railing, grinning maniacally. "Show off," Leon accused affectionately. "Learned from the best," she replied, flipping back to solid ground. The Admiral checked his chronometer. "The ceremony starts in 30 minutes. We should head inside." As Lily and the Admiral retreated, Ari turned to Leon one last time. "Ready to formally accept your position on the Council?" He took a deep breath, looking out at the horizon where Earth's sun was setting in a blaze of gold and crimson. "As ready as I'll ever be." "Just remember," she said, pressing a kiss to his cheek, "no matter what titles they give you, what responsibilities you accept, who you are to me doesn't change." "And who is that?" Her emerald eyes gleamed with the same mixture of mischief and affection that had captured him from the start. "The man who claimed a woman he didn't know to save her life. The man who pretended to be ordinary because it was easier than being extraordinary. The man I love, not because of his name or his abilities, but because of his heart." Leon pulled her close, the future stretching before them like the stars he'd once used to escape. Only now, he wasn't running from something, but toward it, toward a life he'd never imagined possible, with a woman who saw past every facade to the person he truly was. "Let's go change the galaxy," he whispered against her lips, "together." And as they turned toward their future, the last light of day caught the shimmer of Ari's skin and the quiet determination in Leon's eyes. Two unlikely survivors who had found in each other not just salvation, but purpose. The end. Dear Starfarer, as Leon and Ari's story fades into the cosmic background, I find myself wondering which path you would choose if suddenly thrust into the galaxy's spotlight. Would you embrace your hidden potential like our reluctant hero, or continue drifting through the stars, pretending to be ordinary? Perhaps we all wear masks, some to hide our true capabilities, others to protect the people we love. In a universe where a dental pick can end wars and a single word can save a species, sometimes the most powerful act is simply claiming someone as your own. If you enjoyed this space adventure with its Reynolds family chaos, think The Incredibles meets Guardians of the Galaxy with a dash of Firefly. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Did Leon's journey from space burnout to galactic reformer resonate with you? Did Ari's blend of vulnerability and strength capture your imagination? Or was Lily's terrifying enthusiasm the highlight of your reading experience? After all, every good story is a pair bond between writer and reader, a connection that, once formed, changes both parties forever. Until our next adventure among the stars, the author. P.S. Watch out for dental picks. You never know when they might change the course of galactic history.